The sky above Earth was unusually quiet that morning. The sun rose slowly, painting the horizon in shades of orange and pink. Birds chirped lazily, and the world seemed to go about its usual business. But deep within the halls of a top-secret, government facility, chaos was brewing. Something had arrived, something no one had ever seen before. It started with a faint hum, barely noticeable at first. People in cities around the globe stopped what they were doing, looking up at the skies. The hum grew louder, vibrating through windows and rattling dishes on shelves. Then came the light, a bright, blinding glow that seemed to come from everywhere, and nowhere all at once. It wasn't harsh like the sun or flickering like lightning. It was steady, almost calming, but impossible to ignore. In orbit around Earth, a massive alien ship appeared out of thin air. It didn't look like anything humans had imagined. The vessel shimmered as if it were made of liquid metal, constantly shifting and changing shape. Its surface reflected the light of the sun, creating dazzling patterns that danced across the ground below. It was enormous, dwarfing even the largest human-made structures. And it stayed there, hovering silently as if observing. News of the ship spread quickly. Phones buzzed with alerts, television switched to emergency broadcasts, and social media exploded with speculation. Governments scrambled to respond. Military jets took off from bases around the world, circling the ship cautiously, but keeping their distance. No one knew what to do. Was this an invasion? A peaceful visit? Or something else entirely? At the center of the storm was Alex Carter, a scientist who specialized in astrophysics. He had spent most of his life studying the stars, searching for signs of extraterrestrial life. Now he found himself face to face with proof that such life existed, and it was far more advanced than anyone could have imagined. Alex stood in a dimly lit room filled with monitors and equipment, his eyes glued to the screen showing live footage of the alien ship. Beside him was Emily Dawson, a linguist known for her work decoding ancient languages. Her job was usually confined to dusty artifacts and crumbling manuscripts, but now she was being asked to decipher something far more complex. Together, they formed part of a team assembled by the government to figure out what the aliens wanted and why they were here. For hours, the ship did nothing. It just floated there, silent and unmoving. Then, without warning, it sent a signal. It wasn't a voice or a picture. Instead, it was a series of symbols and numbers flashing across every communication device on the planet. TVs, radios, phones, all displayed the same strange sequence. It was as if the aliens were speaking directly to humanity, but in a language no one understood. Alex leaned closer to the monitor, his brow furrowed in concentration. "This is incredible," he muttered under his breath. "They're using math, geometry, maybe even quantum mechanics." Emily nodded, though she wasn't sure she fully grasped what he meant. She pointed to one of the symbols. "That looks like a pattern we've seen in some ancient scripts. If we can break it down piece by piece, maybe we can figure out what they're trying to say." The team worked tirelessly, analyzing the data and running simulations. Days passed and tensions ran high. People outside the facility grew restless. Protests erupted in major cities, demanding answers. Conspiracy theories flourished online. Some believed the aliens were here to save humanity. Others thought they were here to destroy it. The uncertainty was maddening. Finally, after 4 sleepless days, Alex and his team cracked the code. What they found chilled them to the bone. The message read, "Humanity classified as a God-level threat. Immediate quarantine initiated." "What does that mean?" Emily asked, her voice trembling. "A God-level threat? That doesn't make sense. We're not gods. We're barely scratching the surface of space exploration." Alex shook his head, his mind racing. "Maybe it's not about where we are now. Maybe it's about where we're headed. Our technology is advancing faster than anyone expected. Look at AI, genetic engineering, nuclear weapons. To another civilization, that kind of growth might look dangerous." "But we haven't done anything wrong," Emily insisted. "We're still figuring things out. Does this mean they think we'll eventually pose a risk?" "It seems so," Alex replied grimly. And if they see us as a threat, they might decide to act before we become too powerful. The implications weighed heavily on both of them. Outside, the world continued to react. Some saw the message as a declaration of war, while others viewed it as an opportunity to prove humanity's worth. Religious groups claimed the aliens were angels or demons, depending on their beliefs. Politicians argued over how to respond, with some advocating for diplomacy and others pushing for military action. Meanwhile, Alex and Emily couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to the story. Why would an advanced civilization label humanity, a species still struggling to understand its own planet, as a god-level threat? What criteria had they used to reach that conclusion? And what exactly did immediate quarantine entail? As they pored over the data, Emily noticed something strange. Hidden within the mathematical patterns was a secondary layer of information. It was subtle, almost imperceptible, but it was there. "Alex, look at this," she said, pointing to her screen. "There's more to this message than meets the eye." Alex leaned in, his curiosity piqued. Together they began unraveling the hidden code. It wasn't easy. Each discovery raised more questions than answers, but they refused to give up. They knew that understanding the true meaning behind the message might be the key to saving humanity. By the end of the week, the situation remained tense. The alien ship showed no signs of leaving, and the global response was fractured. Leaders argued, scientists debated, and ordinary people wondered what the future held. For Alex and Emily, the pressure was overwhelming. Yet amidst the chaos, they clung to hope. If they could decode the full message and communicate with the aliens, perhaps they could change their minds. Little did they know their journey was only beginning. The world was holding its breath. The alien ship still loomed in orbit, a silent sentinel watching over Earth. Governments had tried to maintain order, but panic was spreading like wildfire. People were scared of the unknown, scared of what might happen next, and scared that humanity's future could be decided by beings they couldn't even understand. Alex Carter and Emily Dawson knew they had to act fast. The hidden layer of information they'd uncovered in the alien message hinted at something important, but it wasn't enough. They needed more answers, and the only way to get them was to talk directly to the aliens. After days of debate, world leaders agreed to send a delegation to the alien ship. It was a risky move, but staying on Earth and waiting for the aliens to make the next move felt even riskier. The team chosen for the mission included Alex, whose scientific expertise would be crucial, Emily, who might be able to communicate with the aliens using her knowledge of languages, Daniel Harper, a calm and experienced diplomat, and Rachel Monroe, a biologist eager to learn about alien life. Each member brought something unique to the table, but none of them truly knew what to expect. The journey began aboard a small shuttle designed for space travel. As the shuttle ascended through Earth's atmosphere, the 4 passengers stared out the windows at the vast expanse of stars. For Alex, it was awe-inspiring. He had spent years studying the universe from afar, but this was different. This was real. Emily, however, felt a mix of excitement and dread. She couldn't shake the feeling that they were walking into something far bigger than themselves. When the shuttle approached the alien ship, the scale of it became even more apparent. Up close, the vessel was breathtaking. Its surface shimmered and shifted, reflecting light in ways that made it seem alive. There were no visible doors or windows, just smooth, flowing lines that defied human understanding. Then, without warning, a section of the ship opened, creating an entrance large enough for the shuttle to pass through. Inside, the environment was unlike anything they had ever seen. The walls glowed faintly, pulsing with soft rhythmic light. The air was breathable, though it carried a strange metallic scent. As they stepped out of the shuttle, they were greeted by towering figures, beings taller than any human, with translucent skin that revealed glowing veins beneath. Their movements were fluid and deliberate, almost hypnotic. They didn't speak with voices. Instead, their words resonated directly in the minds of the humans, clear and sharp. "We are the Veil," one of the beings said. "You have come seeking answers. Daniel stepped forward, his voice steady despite the surreal surroundings. Yes, we have. Your message labeled us as a threat. We want to understand why. The Veil paused as if considering the question. Then another spoke. Your species has been under observation for centuries. At first you seemed insignificant, a primitive race struggling to survive. But your growth has been unprecedented. Rachel frowned. Growth, you mean technology? Not only technology, the Veil replied. Your ability to adapt, to create, to change yourselves and your environment. It is unparalleled. Other civilizations have followed similar paths, but none have done so with your speed or unpredictability. Emily took a step forward, her curiosity outweighing her fear. But we're not perfect. We make mistakes and we're still learning. How can you judge us based on potential dangers when we haven't even reached them yet? The Veil tilted their heads slightly, a gesture that seemed almost human. Potential is often more dangerous than reality. Civilizations like yours tend to destroy themselves or others before achieving stability. We cannot risk allowing such instability to spread. Alex clenched his fists, frustration bubbling inside him. So you're just going to label us as a threat and leave it at that? No chance for negotiation, no opportunity to prove ourselves? The Veil didn't answer immediately. Instead, they extended one of their long, slender arms and handed Emily a small object. It was a crystalline sphere, about the size of a grapefruit, pulsating with light. The colors shifted constantly, creating patterns that seemed to draw the eye inward. This artifact contains knowledge, the Veil explained. Study it carefully. Do not tamper with it until you comprehend its purpose. It may guide you toward understanding. Before anyone could ask more questions, the Veil turned and began to glide away. The humans exchanged uneasy glances. None of them felt satisfied with the encounter, but they knew they had to return to Earth with what little information they had. Back on the shuttle, the mood was somber. Rachel cradled the crystalline sphere in her hands, staring at it intently. Do you think this thing really holds answers? She asked. It has to, Alex replied. If the Veil went through the trouble of giving it to us, it must be important. Emily nodded, though her mind was racing. We need to figure out how to access whatever's inside. But we have to be careful. If the Veil warned us not to tamper with it, there's probably a good reason. As the shuttle descended back to Earth, the weight of their mission settled heavily on their shoulders. They had gotten a glimpse of the Veil's perspective, but it only raised more questions. Why were they so focused on humanity's potential, rather than its current state? What did they mean by instability? And most importantly, could humanity find a way to convince the Veil that they weren't a threat? Upon their return, the team was whisked away to a secure facility where scientists and experts waited eagerly to examine the artifact. The world watched anxiously, hoping for a breakthrough. News outlets broadcast every update, and social media buzzed with theories and speculation. Some people accused the team of betrayal, saying they should have demanded more from the Veil. Others praised them for bringing back evidence that might save humanity. Inside the lab, Alex and Emily worked tirelessly to unlock the secrets of the sphere. They set up equipment to scan its structure, measure its energy output, and analyze its composition. At first, it resisted all attempts to penetrate its surface, but then, during one late-night session, something changed. The sphere suddenly lit, up brighter than before, projecting streams of data onto the walls. Symbols, equations, and images filled the room, moving too quickly for anyone to process. Alex grabbed a tablet and started recording everything, while Emily scribbled notes furiously. It's showing us simulations, Emily gasped. Look, these are predictions of future scenarios. Alex squinted at one projection. It depicted humanity spreading across the galaxy, consuming resources and wiping out weaker species. Another showed humans developing weapons capable of destroying entire star systems. His stomach churned. This is what the Veil are afraid of, he murmured. They think we'll become unstoppable. But these are just possibilities, Emily argued. Not certainties. We have the power to choose a different path. Her words gave Alex a glimmer of hope. Maybe the key to convincing the Veil lay not in proving humanity's innocence, but in demonstrating its capacity for restraint and wisdom. But how could they do that when the clock was ticking and the world was falling apart? Outside the lab, protests continued to grow. Some groups called for immediate action against the Veil, while others pleaded for peace. Leaders argued over whether to comply with the quarantine or resist. Amidst the chaos, Alex and Emily remained focused. They knew the fate of humanity depended on unraveling the mysteries of the artifact and finding a way to show the Veil that humanity deserved a second chance. For now, the alien ship still hovered above Earth, a constant reminder of the stakes. But Alex and Emily refused to give up. Somewhere within the sphere's glowing depths lay the answers they needed. All they had to do was find them and use them wisely. The artifact was a mystery wrapped in light. Its pulsating glow filled the dimly lit lab, casting strange shadows on the walls. Alex and Emily sat hunched over their equipment, eyes glued to the streams of data it projected. The simulations they had uncovered were both fascinating and terrifying. Each one painted a picture of humanity's potential future, some hopeful, others catastrophic. But the ones that stood out most were those showing humanity spiraling out of control, consuming resources, destroying ecosystems, and even wiping out entire civilizations. Rachel Monroe, the biologist, watched silently from the corner of the room. She had been quiet since their return from the alien ship, her mind racing with questions about the Veil themselves. Were they truly as wise and benevolent as they seemed? Or were they just another form of life trying to protect their dominance? In the galaxy? She didn't know, but she couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to their story than they had shared. Daniel Harper, the diplomat, paced back and forth near the door. He had spent his career navigating tense negotiations between nations, but this was different. This wasn't about politics or economics, it was about survival. If humanity wanted to avoid being labeled a threat forever, they needed to find a way to prove their worth. But how could they do that when the Veil saw them as unpredictable and dangerous? "We need to focus," Alex said, breaking the silence. His voice was calm but firm. "This artifact is our best chance to understand what the Veil are really thinking. If we can decode it fully, maybe we can find a loophole, a way to show them we're not the monsters they think we are." Emily nodded, though her expression was grim. "But it's not just about decoding the data. We have to figure out what message they're trying to send. These simulations, they're warnings, yes, but they're also lessons. They're showing us what could happen if we don't change." Alex leaned back in his chair, rubbing his temples. "Change is hard for humans. Look at our history. We've made progress, sure, but we've also caused so much destruction. How do we convince the Veil that we're capable of doing better?" Rachel finally spoke up. "Maybe it's not about convincing them that we'll never make mistakes. Maybe it's about showing them that we're willing to try, that we're aware of our flaws and we're working to fix them." Daniel stopped pacing and turned to face the group. "That's a good point. If we present ourselves as a species that's learning, growing, and striving for improvement, maybe the Veil will see us differently. But we need proof. Something tangible they can't ignore." The team fell silent, each lost in thought. The weight of their task pressed down on them like a heavy blanket. Outside the lab, the world continued to spin in chaos. Protests grew louder, with some groups calling for rebellion against the Veil and others pleading for peace. Governments argued over the best course of action, while scientists scrambled to develop technologies that might help humanity defend itself or communicate more effectively with the aliens. Back in the lab, Alex decided to take a closer look at one of the simulations. It showed humanity spreading across the galaxy, building colonies on distant planets and interacting with other species. At first, everything seemed peaceful. Humans traded knowledge, shared resources, and formed alliances. But then cracks began to appear. Greed took hold. Resources dwindled. Conflicts erupted. In the end, entire civilizations were wiped out, leaving behind only ruins. "This is what they're afraid of," Alex muttered, pointing to the screen. "They've seen civilizations like ours before, species that expand too quickly, consume too much, and destroy everything in their path. They think we'll do the same." Emily frowned. But we're not like that, not entirely. Yes, we've made mistakes, but we've also created art, music, and science. We've built communities, helped each other, and dreamed of a better future. Why don't they see that side of us? Because fear clouds judgment, Rachel said, softly. When you're faced with something unknown, it's easier to assume the worst than to hope for the best. The conversation shifted as the team began brainstorming ways to present humanity's positive qualities to the Veil. Alex suggested compiling examples of human achievements, scientific breakthroughs, artistic masterpieces, acts of kindness, and creating a kind of portfolio to share with the aliens. Emily agreed, adding that they should include stories of resilience and cooperation, moments when humanity came together to overcome challenges. Daniel, however, was skeptical. Even if we put all this together, how do we get it to the Veil? They haven't exactly invited us back for another chat. That's where the artifact comes in, Alex replied. If we can figure out how to use it as a communication tool, maybe we can send them our message directly. For the next several days, the team worked around the clock. They gathered images, videos, and recordings from across the globe, capturing the essence of human creativity and compassion. Artists contributed paintings and sculptures. Musicians sent recordings of symphonies and songs. Scientists shared footage of groundbreaking experiments. Ordinary people submitted personal stories of love, loss, and triumph. Meanwhile, Alex and Emily continued studying the artifact, searching for a way to interface with it. They discovered that the sphere responded to certain frequencies of sound and light, almost as if it were alive. By carefully adjusting their equipment, they managed to establish a rudimentary connection. The artifact began projecting new images, scenes of Earth's natural beauty, its diverse cultures, and its vibrant ecosystems. "It's responding to us," Emily whispered, her voice filled with awe. "It's showing us what it sees as valuable." Alex nodded. "And if it sees value in these things, maybe the Veil will too." As the team prepared their final presentation, tensions outside the lab reached a boiling point. Militaries around the world mobilized, ready to fight if necessary. Some believed that humanity should refuse to submit to the Veil's quarantine and assert its independence. Others argued that resistance would only confirm the aliens' fears, making humanity appear even more dangerous. Despite the pressure, Alex and Emily remained focused. They knew that violence wasn't the answer. If humanity wanted to survive and thrive, it needed to find a way to coexist with the Veil. The artifact was their key to doing just that. Finally, after weeks of relentless effort, the team was ready. They had created a digital archive containing everything they hoped would change the Veil's perception of humanity. It was a mosaic of human existence, showcasing both its strengths and its vulnerabilities. Now, all they had to do was activate the artifact and send the message. Standing in the lab surrounded by their colleagues and the glowing sphere, Alex took a deep breath. "This is it," he said. "We've done everything we can. Let's hope it's enough." With a nod from Emily, he activated the device. The room filled with light as the artifact absorbed the archive and transmitted it into the void. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the sphere pulsed brightly, sending a signal upward toward the alien ship still hovering in orbit. The team held their breath, waiting for a response. Would the Veil listen, or would they dismiss humanity's plea as irrelevant? Outside, the world watched and waited. No one knew what the outcome would be, but one thing was certain. Humanity's fate now rested in the hands of beings far more advanced, and perhaps far less forgiving, than themselves. The seconds felt like hours as Alex, Emily, Rachel, and Daniel waited for a response from the Veil. The artifact sat in the center of the lab, its light dimming slowly after transmitting the archive. None of them spoke. The silence was heavy, filled with anticipation and fear. Had they done enough? Would the Veil even acknowledge their message? Finally, the sphere began to glow again, brighter than before. A low hum filled the room, vibrating through the walls and floor. Then, without warning, the glowing patterns on its surface shifted, forming shapes and symbols that pulsed rhythmically. It was as if the artifact was alive, responding to something far beyond human understanding. It worked, Emily whispered, her voice trembling with both relief and awe. They're answering. Alex leaned closer, his eyes scanning the symbols. It's not just an answer, it's an invitation. Before anyone could ask what he meant, the room around them dissolved into light. The walls, the equipment, even their own bodies seemed to fade away, replaced by a vast, endless expanse. They weren't in the lab anymore. Instead, they found themselves standing in a surreal landscape, a digital realm where thoughts and ideas took physical form. The ground, beneath their feet, shimmered like liquid glass, reflecting their images back at them but distorted, as if seen through rippling water. Above them, the sky was a swirling ocean of colors and shapes, constantly shifting and changing. In the distance, towering structures made of light rose into infinity, their surfaces covered in intricate patterns that seemed to tell stories. This is incredible, Rachel murmured, her wide eyes taking in every detail. Is this how the Veil think? How they communicate? It's more than communication, Alex replied, his voice filled with wonder. This is their collective mind, their hive consciousness. We're inside it. As they looked around, figures began to emerge from the swirling colors. At first, they were faint outlines, but soon they solidified into the familiar forms of the Veil. Their translucent skin glowed softly and their movements were fluid, almost hypnotic. Unlike during their previous encounter aboard the alien ship, the Veil now seemed less distant, as if they were opening themselves up to the humans. One of the Veil stepped forward, its glowing veins pulsing in sync with the rhythm of the environment. You have shared your essence with us, it said, its voice resonating directly in their minds. We see your potential for creation and destruction, for unity and chaos. Emily swallowed hard, trying to steady her nerves. We wanted to show you that we're more than just a threat. Yes, we've made mistakes, but we're learning. We're capable of growth, of change. The Veil tilted its head slightly, a gesture that seemed almost human. Your creativity is unparalleled, your ability to dream, to imagine possibilities beyond your current reality. It sets you apart from other species. But it is also your greatest danger. Other civilizations with such potential have fallen victim to their own ambitions, destroying themselves and others. Daniel stepped forward, his diplomatic training kicking in. But isn't that exactly why you should give us a chance? If you intervene now, you'll never know what we might become. Isn't it worth taking the risk to see if we can rise above our flaws? The Veil didn't respond immediately. Instead, the environment around them shifted again. The swirling colors, condensed into vivid scenes, snapshots of humanity's history. Wars raged, cities crumbled, and lives were lost. But then, the images changed. They showed moments of peace, collaboration, and innovation. Artists painted masterpieces, scientists made groundbreaking discoveries, and ordinary people came together to help one another. These are the dual faces of your species, the Veil said. Both exist within you, intertwined. How can we trust that one will prevail over the other? Rachel spoke up, her voice steady despite the surreal surroundings. Because we're still here. Despite everything we've done wrong, humanity has survived. We've faced extinction-level events, plagues, and wars, and yet we keep going. That resilience, that determination to keep trying, is proof that we're worth saving. The Veil paused, their glowing forms flickering slightly. For the first time, Alex noticed cracks in their composure. They weren't as certain as they had seemed before. Maybe, just maybe, the archive had planted seeds of doubt in their collective mind. Emily decided to push further. You said our creativity is unique. Have you considered that it could be used for good as much as for harm? Look at what we've built, not just weapons or machines, but art, music, literature. These things connect us, inspire us, and remind us of our shared humanity. Isn't that valuable too? The Veil exchanged silent glances, their movements flowing like water. Then, one of them extended a hand, and a new image formed in the air. A vision of Earth thriving, its ecosystems restored, its people united. Humans worked alongside advanced technology, using it responsibly to heal rather than harm. Other species coexisted peacefully, their differences celebrated rather than feared. This is possible, the Veil said. But it requires restraint, wisdom, and cooperation. Are you prepared to embrace these values fully? Alex nodded firmly. We may not be perfect, but we're willing to try. That's all anyone can ask of us. The Veil hesitated, their glowing forms pulsing faintly. Finally, they spoke. Very well, we will reconsider our decision. But know this. If you fail to demonstrate responsibility, the consequences will be severe. With that, the digital realm began to dissolve. The swirling colors faded, the towering structures disappeared, and the team found themselves back in the lab, the artifact sitting quietly on the table. For a moment, no one moved. Then Daniel broke the silence. We did it, he said, his voice filled with disbelief. They're giving us a chance. Emily let out a shaky laugh, tears streaming down her face. But this isn't the end. It's only the beginning. Now we have to prove to them and to ourselves that we're worthy of their trust. Alex stared at the artifact, his mind racing. They're watching us. Everything we do from this point forward matters. We can't afford to mess this up. Outside the lab, the world continued to spin. News of the team's success spread quickly, though details were scarce. People celebrated cautiously, unsure whether the Veil's decision was truly final. Governments vowed to cooperate, pledging to work together toward a brighter future. Scientists and innovators promised to use their skills responsibly, focusing on solutions rather than profit or power. But not everyone was convinced. Some groups argued that humanity shouldn't bow to the Veil's demands, while others feared that the aliens' patience wouldn't last forever. Protests erupted in major cities and tensions remained high. The road ahead would be difficult, but for the first time in weeks there was hope. Back in the lab, the team gathered around the artifact, exhaustion etched on their faces but determination burning in their eyes. They knew the hardest part was yet to come. Convincing the Veil to give humanity a second chance was one thing. Proving that humanity deserved it was another. We'll need everyone's help, Emily said, looking at her colleagues. Scientists, artists, leaders, ordinary people, all of us working together. Only then can we show the Veil that we're ready to take our place among the stars. Alex nodded, a small smile tugging at the corners of his mouth. And when we succeed, we'll prove something else too. That humanity isn't defined by its fears or its failures. We're defined by our ability to rise above them. As the sun set outside, casting long shadows across the lab, the team got to work. They had a lot to do, and the clock was ticking. But for the first time, they felt confident that they could make a difference, not just for themselves, but for all of humanity. The days that followed were unlike anything the world had ever seen. Humanity, united by a common goal for the first time in its history, worked tirelessly to prove itself worthy of the Veil's trust. Governments set aside their differences, pooling resources and knowledge to tackle global challenges. Scientists collaborated across borders, developing technologies aimed at healing rather than harming. Artists and storytellers shared their work freely, reminding people of the beauty and resilience that defined humanity. Alex, Emily, Rachel, and Daniel became symbols of hope, their efforts inspiring millions to join the cause. News outlets broadcast daily updates on the progress being made. Forests were replanted, oceans cleaned, and endangered species protected. Renewable energy projects sprang up around the globe, replacing outdated systems that had once polluted the planet. It was as if the entire world had awakened to its potential, not just to survive, but to thrive. But it wasn't easy. Old habits died hard, and not everyone agreed with the changes. Some corporations resisted new regulations, arguing that they would hurt profits. Others claimed the Veil's demands were too extreme, that humanity shouldn't have to change its ways for an alien civilization. Protests erupted in cities, with people shouting slogans like "Freedom over fear" and "Earth first." Despite these challenges, the majority pressed on, determined to show the Veil that humanity could rise above its flaws. In the lab, Alex and Emily continued studying the artifact, searching for any signs of the Veil's reaction. They discovered that the sphere acted as a kind of two-way communication device, transmitting Earth's progress back to the alien ship. Every step forward, every tree planted, every solar panel installed, every act of kindness recorded, was sent into the void, a silent testament to humanity's efforts. One evening, as the team gathered around the artifact, Emily noticed something unusual. The sphere's glow had changed, shifting from its usual soft pulse to a steady, radiant light. She pointed it out to Alex, who frowned thoughtfully. "It's responding," he said. "Maybe the Veil are watching more closely now." As if on cue, the room filled with the same hum they had heard before. The air shimmered, and the familiar digital landscape materialized around them. This time, however, the environment felt warmer, less intimidating. The swirling colors were brighter, and the towering structures seemed to welcome them rather than loom over them. The Veil appeared almost immediately, their glowing forms radiating calm. One of them stepped forward, addressing the group directly. "We have observed your actions," it said. "You have demonstrated a willingness to change, to prioritize cooperation over conflict. This is promising." Emily's heart raced. "Does this mean you've decided to lift the quarantine?" The Veil paused, their movements flowing like water. "Not yet, but we are prepared to offer guidance. Your growth must be nurtured, not stifled. We will assist you in ensuring that your advancements benefit all life, not just your own." Rachel let out a breath she hadn't realized she was holding. "Thank you," she said softly. "We won't waste this opportunity." The Veil nodded, their expression unreadable. "Remember, balance is fragile. If you stray too far in either direction, chaos or stagnation, you risk undoing everything you have achieved. Remain vigilant." With those words, the digital realm dissolved once again, leaving the team back in the lab. Silence hung in the air as they processed what had just happened. The Veil hadn't given humanity a free pass. They were still watching, still judging. But they had offered a lifeline, a chance to grow, to learn, and to earn their place among the stars. Outside, the news spread quickly. People celebrated cautiously, knowing that the work was far from over. Leaders urged citizens to stay focused, emphasizing that the Veil's guidance came with expectations. Projects accelerated, fueled by renewed determination. Schools introduced curriculums focused on sustainability and cooperation. Artists created murals depicting humanity's journey toward unity. Even skeptics began to see the value in working together, realizing that the alternative was unthinkable. Over the next few months, the Veil's presence became a constant but gentle force in humanity's development. They didn't interfere directly but provided subtle nudges when needed. When a new technology showed promise but carried risks, the artifact would emit a warning signal, prompting scientists to rethink their approach. When disputes arose between nations, the Veil's influence seemed to encourage dialogue rather than conflict. Alex and Emily found themselves at the center of it all, acting as intermediaries between humanity and the Veil. They traveled the world, sharing insights and helping communities adapt to the changes. Along the way, they marveled at how far humanity had come. Cities once choked by pollution now thrived with green spaces. Economies shifted away from exploitation and toward innovation. People began to see themselves not as rulers of the earth, but as stewards of it. One evening, as Alex and Emily stood on a hill overlooking a bustling city bathed in the golden light of sunset, they reflected on everything that had happened. The journey had been long and difficult, but it had also been rewarding in ways they never imagined. "We did it," Emily said, her voice filled with quiet pride. "Not just us, but everyone. Together." Alex smiled, his eyes scanning the horizon. "And we're not done yet. There's still so much to learn, so much to build, but for the first time I feel like we're heading in the right direction." Above them, the alien ship still hovered silently in orbit, a reminder of the responsibility humanity now carried. but it no longer felt like a threat. Instead, it symbolized hope, a beacon guiding humanity toward a brighter future. As the stars began to appear in the darkening sky, Alex and Emily stood side by side, dreaming of what lay ahead. They knew the road wouldn't always be smooth, but they also knew that humanity had proven one thing beyond doubt. It was capable of rising to meet even the greatest challenges. For now, the Veil remained watchful, their judgment tempered by cautious optimism, and humanity, inspired by the opportunity they had been given, vowed to honor that trust. Together, they looked to the stars, ready to take their place among them, not as gods or conquerors, but as humble explorers eager to contribute to the vast tapestry of life in the universe.